Chris McKenna, one-time Manchester United media work experience kid, and now tearing it up at the Athletic these days. How are you doing?
Not too bad, Steve. How's it going with yourself?
Not too bad, thank you. Not too bad. All the better for Sunday, which is
Yep.
obviously what we're here to talk about. Now, I thought this was quite brave. You ran a piece saluting Casemiro ahead of the game, ahead of a fixture which has kind of exposed him in the past. Well, firstly, how do you think it went for him on the day?
Well, I think the fact he even started after playing in Asia with Brazil 2 full games shows how much Amorim or how much trust Amorim places in him at the minute. Because in a way, he shouldn't have been playing because of his age and the travel and the amount of games he played, amount of minutes he played for Brazil, and how important he is for that Brazil team now again. And he didn't play against City after the last international break, and we've seen the result there. So when obviously I planned this piece and I was doing it, and then I seen he played those 2 games, and I was like, "Oh, I'm going to write this piece about how important he is, and maybe Amorim is going to maybe go, right, I can't play him because of that." But I think it was the opposite way. He felt he couldn't not play him, and I think that shows how important Casemiro has become to him. And although the game and the tactics was obviously a lot more direct and over going over the midfield, I think it's still seeing the quality of Casemiro and in how he kind of broke up play when Liverpool were coming at them, and at times where the ball was dropping back, that second ball when it maybe wasn't Cunha or Mbeumo who picked it up, it was Fernandez, it was Casemiro making himself available, finding the right pass, and just releasing that kind of pressure. He played up nearly an hour and then he got one of his typical yellow cards, which we still see too many times, and it'd be one of the negatives I would have still about him. And he had to just come off then. And I don't think Amarim would have given him too much longer anyway. I think the yellow card forced his hand, but I can't imagine he'd have given him more than 70 minutes. So I think it was one of those. It was what I think we see a lot from Casemiro now, 7 out of 10 performances, but they're crucial if you're going to build a team. Not everybody can be the 8 and the 9, 10 out of 10 performances. You need that kind of 6.5, 7 out of 10, and that's what I thought he was on Sunday.
There's obviously been an awful lot of scrutiny on United's midfield. We've recruited very well over the summer, generally everywhere except midfield. Obviously, Bruno's dropped back in. He's been trialed in a deeper position. Ugarte's not really found his top form. What's Casemiro bringing that no one else is? Is it as simple as just that consistency, that higher baseline that you talk about?
Yeah, I think it's experience, it's physicality, not in the sense of mobility, because we know he hasn't got the legs that he once had, but it's also he is a presence. He's big in both boxes. We obviously seen he can score at the other end, but he clears his fair share of corners, and we've seen in even in Amorim's team selection for Sunday in picking Harry Maguire. He didn't pick him to score the match winner, as nice as it was for him to do that. He picked him because of his aerial kind of in defence to deal with Liverpool's set pieces. And Casemiro assists in that. But I think in the midfield, it's the experience he offers, his calmness on the ball. Sometimes he does play like a mad ball, and you're like, why have you done that? But a lot of the time, he takes the ball, he scans around, and he picks the easier pass, and he just kind of moves the ball on. If you see better example of it where Man United were playing through the middle a bit more against Sunderland before the international break, he was taking a lot of the ball from either the defense or from Bruno maybe at times, and he was then pushing it forward, trying to break through the midfield. So I think he just brings experience. I think he brings passing ability, and he has got the ability to break up play. We know what Man Garty's strengths are, and that is definitely breaking up play, but maybe on the ball he doesn't quite have what Casemiro has. He certainly doesn't have the experience of Casemiro with all his years at Real Madrid, but I think it's a blend of that, and it's also I think what's happened in the last year is Amorim and Casemiro kind of come together in that when Amorim came in, he used them initially, and then he felt it became quite clear he's not going to fit into my system because he can't play like my sporting midfielders played. But then he realised that maybe Ugarte can't at the minute anymore, or not like he used to. So he realised he had to find a way to work this midfield where Casemiro could fit into it, and Casemiro himself had to adapt. One, by getting fitter, and two, by not being like, there was sometimes under Ten Hag where you would watch him and you'd be like, he'd be nearly in the 6 yard box of the opposition, and you're like, why have you so far forward? You're the defensive midfielder. And I don't know whether that was because he didn't do that a lot for Real Madrid, but maybe he just felt because he was one of the leaders in the team and the team was struggling, he always felt he had to do more and more and more. And I think he has adapted in that way that he's like, right, I'll stick a bit more here. I'll go up for corners or stay around the box after the corner, but after that, I've got to be back. And I don't think he bombs forward as much, which has allowed him to not get as exposed quite as much as he was in the past.
I think the word you used at the start there it was presence as well. He has got a really big presence off the field. He's a popular member of the squad. And I think quite, it kind of goes overlooked that in his early 30s, drifting towards his mid 30s, he has sort of, like you say, taken on board, he's taken stock and he's
Mm.
kind of risen to the challenge and played himself back into the team, isn't he? And you know, this squad needs people who are going to set examples. And that's a great example for the younger lads, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's even at 33 or 32 last season, he was out of the team and he could have sulked. And Man United have had plenty of players who have sulked and who are not in the team and they cause problems. And he just got his head down. And yeah, he maybe thought at times last season, I'm probably going to get sold here in the summer if I don't get back in this team. And then maybe even in the summer, if an offer had a come, he might have got sold because of his age and because of his wages. But last season he was like, right, I'm going to show it. I'm going to get back here. I want big thing for him. He's a proud South American. He wants to play in the World Cup. He wants to play for Brazil. If he wasn't playing for Man United, he wasn't going to be getting back in that Brazil team. And that was another motivating factor. But also he wanted to prove doubters wrong. And he's had plenty of doubters, and at times rightly so. I'm not saying he's been perfect in his time at United. He had that unbelievably good first season, and then the second season was pretty much a disaster for him. And he came back in that summer and 2004, 2024, and he really came back in better shape. He'd missed the cup final through injury, he'd missed the Copa America, he was hurting. He came back, and that Liverpool game, and why I kind of did the piece was because of those two Liverpool games. The one in that season, one at the start of the season under Ten Hag, where he makes the two mistakes early on. Liverpool score straight from them, and he's hauled off at half time. That hurt him a lot because he felt going into that season, I think, that he could really get back to his best, and he was really down after that, and that's his wife posted on social media his achievements because he was getting absolute pelters from everywhere, from the media, from fans online. It was all coming, and I think it hurt him. And then Amarin comes in. He's initially used. He's probably thinking, okay, and then he falls out of the team. And at Anfield last season, he sits there unused substitute, and it looked over for him, and it did look like he'll definitely be going. But he's kind of now come around where he probably still needs replacing now because of his age and because we know what Ineos are doing of bringing down wage bills. So his wages will be high on the list of, can we cut this? Can we get a younger player in, etc., to take this team forward? But at the minute, United need him, and he's a player that maybe a year ago would have been just quietly pushed out the door, but now he needs replacing if he does go this summer.
Obviously, that is very much a possibility that, his wage is too big a stumbling block and he ends up leaving. But if United can find a way to, sort of find a middle ground with him, is there a use for him in much the way that Ferguson used to, strategically drop Scholes or Giggs into central midfield just when you need that old head in there? If they can sort the wage thing out, then there's a use for him, isn't there?
Definitely. Now, I don't know where Casemiro's position is on that. Maybe he would be willing to take a wage cut to stay, and I think a lot of that maybe will depend on if Man United are back in Europe next season, because if they're playing Europa League, we've seen last season how he was really good in the Europa League, just that less pressing on him as well, that he could be very useful in that way. And also, would he be happy with that role? And potentially he would, because maybe this World Cup, maybe he's thinking this summer, this is my last World Cup, so he won't mind if he becomes a bit part player in that if he loses his Brazil place, he might even not second guessing it. Maybe if he goes to this World Cup and Brazil have a great World Cup, he might say, right, I'm done with international football now. I've done it. So that would obviously help United as well if he wasn't going away on international duty and help his legs. But yeah, if you can always have these experienced players around, if they can do it, it's a luxury definitely worth having, because whether they brought in, I don't know, Baleba or even an Adam Wharton or whoever is going to be the next kind of Casemiro, the defensive midfielder, or even if it's somebody younger, what a better player to learn from than that. And he is known to be good around the dressing room for that, for helping younger players. So if they could keep him and he'd be happy not playing every week, I think he'd be a massive asset to keep around.
Completely agree. Brilliant. Chris, thank you so much for your time. Top man. And yeah, see you soon.
See you soon, Steve. Nice one.